an opportunity to bring together some of our alum who are doing incredible work in education at an international and global level, and just kind of showcase what they're doing and see the great work that Simmons is spreading out to the rest of the world. So thank you for coming and sharing this event with us. Our panelists, I want to thank them as well now, and I'm sure that I'm going to be thanking them later as well. I want to thank them for their contribution to today's event, for agreeing to come today, and for demonstrating the importance of their work in educating the children of the world. What we do as educators really matters. And what we're going to hear today are only a few of the incredible stories that illustrate how Simmons-trained educators are making a difference locally and globally.
I'm so delighted to be standing here this afternoon to share my experiences and the work I do with my team in Nigeria, in Africa. And I want to thank my able advisor and Professor Jen for making this occasion possible. I'm so grateful for allowing us, I and my teams that are sitting down here, to share our experiences and the work that we are doing to affect lives across the globe. First of all, I just want to say that the ministry that I'm working with is called Access Ministry. It is a non-governmental organization, and we started this with a young man who is visually impaired. And why we started this is was because at his own time, he was blind from the age of 7 years, and so there was nobody to help him out. But then a philanthropist helped him and picked him up along the road and sent him to school, and he went to school and graduated from one of the tertiary institutions in Nigeria. And so when he graduated, he now saw that, wow, there are a lot of people that will be in his shoes that will be looking for a way to enter into schools. So we now collaborated together to start the Access Ministry. We are not paid. We use whatever thing that we have, the little resources, finances that we have, just to make sure that someone, we put smile in the faces of the children with special needs. One of the things that we do, we partner with organizations and we partner with the government far back in my country to see a way we can alleviate educational problem to children with special needs. And secondly, we are trying as much as we could to see if we will amend the policy that relates to special education in Nigeria, because as at now, there is nothing to write home about. The special needs children far back in my country is not recognized, and the people with disability, the major ones that they recognize is visual impairment and those that have a hearing handicaps. So these are the only two major handicapping conditions that, if you come to my country now and you call about it, they will say, yes, we know about it. But then what about other children who are autistic and who have Down syndrome and other disabilities? They are being ignored. So we are working presently to see if there is a way we can amend some policies of education in my country. We organize conferences for teachers. Last year, we organized a workshop and conference for teachers in special schools and for teachers that are in general education school. So we have a lot of people that attended that workshop. We have about 500 attendants of that conference. And in that conference, we highlight things that are being done in the school, how the children are being taught, the strategies of teaching, classroom management. We talk about all those things, and at least somehow show them some ways that they are not doing well, and show them the ones that we have learned, especially here in Simmons. We teach them, and we want them to go back to their various schools and practice all the things that we teach them. And we also give a micro loan to some of the adult or children that have graduated.
Every summer, when I finished from Simmons College in 1997, I was like, it's a long time. When I came to this country in 1992, I had masters in science, and to teach was one of the last things I ever want to do in life, because my father was a teacher, everyone in my family teacher, so I never wanted to teach. But when I came to Simmons, that became a turnaround for me. I love to teach. Right now, I teach special ed kids. I do inclusion, and I do the testing in Boston Public School. So I do the testing to determine eligibility. I also do the remediation in the classrooms. So I go in the classroom. I run K through 5, and I've been doing this 18 years now. But the summer of 2010, myself and my husband decided to go back to Nigeria because they don't have good education. And I realized that in Nigeria, the way we learn is by rote. You have to know it or you're gone. And so I decided to say, there are other ways of learning. For me, when I was in school, it was from dusk to dawn, and I must know it, and if I don't know it, I was gone. I said, we have to bring a change for the children in Nigeria. That was how we started Lifelong Advantage, and we call it Lifelong Advantage because we give these children a lifelong advantage over their peers that are in public school or over their peers that are in other schools. Every summer, I go to Nigeria, so I'm preparing to go this summer, and I look for people that can go with me. So far, I've not been successful in finding teachers that will go with me, but every year I go, and some of the things I do, finger painting, they have no experience. When I collect things around in my school, every year at Boston Public School, we sometimes have new curriculum, and they get rid of the old material. And I say, don't throw it away. We are a generation of waste here in America. In Nigeria, they don't have all this stuff. So I gather stuff, and I send it back there with my husband, and then we'll do a lot of things with it. The first time I sent paint out, and they said, we don't know what to do with this. So when I went home, I showed them how to do finger painting. And why do they need to do finger painting? Because we all learn with every part of our body. It's not only books. Some children don't know how to read. Some children, and in Nigeria, last year I had a student, and they said, this child, you don't know how to read. What are we going to do? We're going to keep you back. And I said, no, we're not going to keep him back. He may not learn how to read by just looking at the print. But how about if we read it to him? How about if I send Alpha Smart? One year I bought Alpha Smart from a school far out in the suburb. And then I told her, I said, I collect all this stuff to send to Africa. If you have other older equipment, just let me know. So she connected me to other private school. Last year, 2013. The President School in Newton donated their older Alpha Smart to me, and I picked it up, and I just sent it back home. So now we have students using Alpha Smart. Music was my passion because I never learned how to play music, but here I have my own children. They know how to play music. So I started by saying the simplest thing that I've seen here is to start with a recorder. Recorder is cheap, and so I hire a teacher and teaching them recorder. So they started recorder. We ship things home. Every summer, I teach the teachers. And I said, look, there are different ways of learning. We all don't learn by memorizing. And of course, when we memorize, most of the time we memorize and we do well. But when it comes to application, we don't know how to apply. And I said, look, we can. We can teach children. We can teach them how to apply things. Okay, we can teach them how to learn. So I was trained in Project Read in America. Through the reading program here, I got introduced to the different multisensory reading here. I brought it back to Nigeria. I'm Wilson trained. I started sending Wilson items home to children. I taught them how to do Project Read. So now the children at Lifelong Advantage know how to tap.
I am a graduate of the Metessel program, where I studied under Paul Abraham, who's here today. And I went to a larger university undergraduate and loved it. But when I started graduate school at Simmons, it was the perfect fit for me because it was a smaller program. And it was the first time academically I really knew my professors and my classmates as well on another level. So I absolutely loved my experience here at Simmons. I started teaching in Newton Public Schools as an English as a second language teacher, where I was teaching for quite a few years, enough years that I learned I could take a leave of absence and come back to my job. And so I couldn't believe everyone wasn't doing this, and I started exploring teaching abroad. And I have Irish citizenship, so I can work in Europe legally. And I landed in Spain, in Madrid, Spain, where I thought I would spend 1 year teaching and improving my Spanish and just having a great experience, which I did. And at the end of that year, I was thinking, oh, I wish I could stay longer. It's just when the language starts kicking in, and it flew by. And Janet and Paul contacted me and thought, are you still in Spain? Is it Madrid or Barcelona? And I said, I'm still in Madrid. And there was just serendipitously, there was a program that was starting through Simmons that would be sending graduate students to do their student teaching in Madrid. So it was just a wonderful coincidence for me. So I became the coordinator of that program for 2 years, where Simmons graduate students came to Madrid. They were placed in a bilingual school. Spain is really pushing bilingual education. They're really investing in it. If you follow it, the economy in Spain is quite abysmal. So they really feel that English is a way out of that in terms of the market and competing with other countries. So they're starting early. And the bilingual schools have really worked on that. So having native speakers is a challenge. But one thing, and anyone who's taught abroad, there's lots of teachers, native speakers who go and have a great experience, but they're not all necessarily trained as teachers. And the Simmons program the advantage was these are trained teachers. They're learning. I had to supervise them. It was part of their practicum. So it was much different than some of the teachers who were already working abroad. I was supervising their student teaching. I was sort of the liaison between the interns and the Spanish schools. So for me professionally, that was a new challenge. By then I knew the city quite well and I could speak Spanish. So I felt that I was a good resource, but it was difficult because there's cultural misunderstandings, many. There's difficulties teaching abroad and being far away from home and learning a language. And it's a hard job of going into a school every day and taking on this curriculum. So I embraced it, and it was just a really wonderful professional experience for me. I ended up staying in Madrid for 5.5 years, which was not the plan, and came back, and I'm working in Newton Public Schools again. They let me back. Not at the same school, but and I've just found that so much has changed in education just in Massachusetts alone during those 5 years. So it was really good to sort of get back on in the trenches a little bit and earn my stripes again. And I just feel that, from my graduate program here at Simmons, then added with this really lucky opportunity that came my way to turn my year abroad into a professional experience connected to Simmons has really helped open a lot of doors for me. And I really look at my teaching every day and working with classroom teachers and administrators.
I came to Simmons. I had already been working in the Wilmington public school system as a paraprofessional with in a resource room, and I was in the mild moderate disabilities seminar with Alan and Jane, and just had an amazing experience here at Simmons. I just wanted to say that. Judo was one of my teachers too. But so when I finished at Simmons, I did another year as a 8th grade liaison in Wilmington, and then I just really wanted to, I grew up in Wilmington, and my mom worked at the school across the street, and I just wanted a different experience. And so I started researching different places to go. I've lived in Hawaii before, and I really love the Pacific, and I just Googled the international schools in the Pacific, and I found this really cute website for the Majuro Cooperative School, and they were looking for a special ed teacher. And I emailed them with my resume and just a really excited cover letter, and they basically created a job for me because they had already hired a special ed teacher for their elementary school, which was the position that I had emailed about. And so I got hired on as the middle school, high school special ed teacher, but I also coordinated the ELL and at-risk services, which is a little crazy. And I taught 7th grade English, reading and writing, and I was the 7th grade advisor, and the list goes on. And so I, knew a little bit about the Marshall Islands, but I didn't know a whole ton. And then when I got there, it was a very spiritual experience for me, just to see, as you fly in, you are 6 hours from Hawaii, you are 6.5 hours from Australia, you are just passing endless amounts of the Pacific Ocean until you see these little strips of sand, and there are people that live down there. My island is only 3 feet above sea level. The highest point is a bridge that's 15 feet. And the people there are really amazing, and they taught me what it is to love other humans and like the true meaning of love. And I had never had an experience like that before. When I got there, I was telling earlier, I didn't know that when I got there, the only way I could communicate with my family was via Skype. I thought, I'd just get a cell phone and call my mom, and that wasn't going to happen. And the more I learned about the Marshall Islands and our history between the U.S. and their islands, and the military history and all of that was really interesting too. And if you're thinking about going abroad, there's lots of different places that you can go, but the Marshall Islands needs really good teachers, and they have a lot of really unique programs there, and they're just really beautiful, lovely people there, and it's a very safe place, but it's very far away, so you have to be willing to be very remote. But yeah, that's my story.
About the, come on up, movie star. These are your people. I want you to tell a little bit about the program.
Basically, I am the program director for the New England Center for Children, which is one of our partner programs. And the New England Center has a satellite program in Abu Dhabi. And these two students of mine experienced, how many years? 2 years? 1 year. Oh, 1 year. So generally, you have about a 1 or 2 year stay there, and you can either return to the U.S. or come to or stay in Abu Dhabi, and a lot of people choose to stay because it's so lovely, and they'll tell you all about it. But our program has a full master's program that gets video conferencing, right? Yeah. And both of you experienced video conferencing while they were in the program, so it's seamless. We don't have to have them take a leave of absence. They can continue it, and as a matter of fact, they can continue with their practicum. And many of the students are in the New England Center, and some are in local schools that are either Arabic schools or Canadian schools, and they do their inclusion piece there, or they are fully, they're inclusion teachers for the full year. So these ladies will tell you a little bit about their experience. It's a beautiful place. I know everyone's saying it's a beautiful place, but it is a lovely place to teach in, and I think that our students have done amazing things for the children there, and I'd like you to just expand on that.
Hi, my name is Lauren Couillard, and as Chris said, I work for New England Center for Children. I've worked there a little over 6 years now, and one of the great things about working for NEC is the ability to take the Simmons graduate course while working for New England Center full-time. So that was a real benefit when it came to kind of choosing my employment after my undergrad. So actually, I was joking, this is only the second time I've actually stepped foot on Simmons campus, and I'm a Simmons graduate. And so it's lovely. This building is gorgeous. But they really made it very, very easy to work for New England Center for Children. You would go and work your shift. It's a school for students with autism. You would go and work your shift, and then you would go into a conference room for 2 hours afterwards, and you would take your courses. And it was really great to be able to be in a course with fellow teachers. The content that we were learning was very relevant to the things we were doing day to day. And so when it came time in your courses to participate and brainstorm and come up with things that were relevant to your day to day, you were able to speak to the people next to you and to your instructor and really come up with these discussions that were very relevant to the things that I was seeing while I was working. And then you were able to use those tools and the strategies that you were being taught and apply them the very next day when you go into work. And then approximately 2.5 years after working for New England Center, I got the opportunity to teach in Abu Dhabi, which was very exciting for me because I got to pair kind of two of my interests, traveling and teaching, together. I had a pretty unique experience. I worked for a private family, and I only worked for one student. It was a pretty high-profile family, and so there was really a lot of emphasis on inclusion. They wanted their son to be able to participate in all of the things his peers were participating in, all of the things his family was participating in, and so it was really important to work on those social skills. Social skills was a huge a part of the things that we worked on.
I also was in Abu Dhabi. I started at the New England Center for Children. I was there for 1 year, had taken one Simmons course at that point, and was offered the opportunity to go to Abu Dhabi, and I jumped on the bandwagon. I arrived there, and I was placed in a classroom with girls with autism, ages 7 through 12. Previously, I had worked with boys 15 through 22, so that was a whole new experience. Unlike Lauren, she worked privately for the family. I was actually at our school. At the time, our school serviced around 40 students in what we call villas, almost equivalent to townhouses here, 4 villas attached with a playground in the middle. What was great about my experience there was that I had just started my education at Simmons. Again, I had only taken one class. I was really only in my first year. And my professors were so supportive of what I was doing. And many of them had never experienced Abu Dhabi. And the questions were like, what are you guys teaching there? How are you teaching it? And that I loved the support. And they always wanted to know how our days were going, what we were doing. It was also interesting because it was 8 a.m. here and it was 4 p.m. in Abu Dhabi. So we were eating dinner in class and they were eating breakfast. Something that I learned from my professors while I was there is as teachers, we're always students. We're always learning, always trying new things. And my opportunity in Abu Dhabi allowed me to learn from other teachers. In our school, we are not just American teachers from the New England Center for Children. We're about 50-50 at the time I was there, with 50% being Arabic staff and 50% being the American staff. And the Arabic staff was from Lebanon, Abu Dhabi, Syria. So I was able to go to them and they were able to teach me what they had learned from their schooling, and I got to share my experiences, what I'm learning in class currently. I was taking the reading class and learning, teaching kids how to learn phonics, and I was teaching my Arabic staff how to teach kids phonics, and then I was teaching my students how to teach phonics. So I'm very appreciative of what Simmons was able to give me when I was in Abu Dhabi.
Specifically focus on girls' education. So I had always planned to go to Sierra Leone, and after finishing my I was in the severe disabilities program at Simmons, where I met Alyssa. And one night I said I was going to Sierra Leone. My parents freaked out. And I was talking about it, and one night over dinner, Alyssa goes, "I'm so jealous." And I said, "Oh, you should come." And then she did. And I had gone to school with Joseph. I'd known him for 6 years. I had studied Sierra Leone. Alyssa, I don't think, did it all. I just wanted to travel. So I read all these books about Sierra Leone. I knew about the Civil War. Alyssa sort of was going into it blind. So her experience was slightly different than mine. While we were there, since the Geneva Project started out as a healthcare system where they were sending aid, our primary role there was clearing land to build a secondary school for girls, which currently there's actually a building on the land. The land belongs to the Geneva Project. Joseph bought it. It's in his name. And so we spent a lot of time clearing brush in Sierra Leone and experiencing very large bugs and lots of ants and rain, lots of rain. We went in the summer during July, and it just poured constantly. It was humid and rainy. And so when it was pouring and you couldn't work outside, we spent time working on a health curriculum. Joseph found this book that's specifically for nurses on how to treat illness when you don't have other things around. You don't have medical care available to you. And so we modified that curriculum, that book. We had a textbook, and we modified it so that it was relevant to specifically people in Sierra Leone and high school-aged girls. So we took that very technical curriculum and sort of sparsed it down to the important details of things that they needed to know, and when specifically to see a doctor. So, you know, it's okay if you have a cut, but if your cut starts turning strange colors, you should go see a doctor. And here's things that you can do to clean a cut. Like, they don't, there's a lot of lack of education in the health world there. They don't know that if you cut yourself on something dirty, you should wash it out with soap and water, specifically hot water, because that will kill all the bacteria that's gotten into your cut. And so we, you know, sparsed down this book so that girls there could learn how to really take care of themselves. Child mortality is a huge issue in Sierra Leone. So hopefully with the health curriculum in this new school, they'll be able to accurately treat those illnesses, and there won't be so much infant mortality. And also that way there won't be, and with the school they'll learn other things. There'll be chemistry lessons and math, and education in general was sort of stripped from this country. And so Joseph's job and the Geneva Project's job, their role is to try to put it back in. They funded a library in Sierra Leone, and which is still functional, although the teachers there, since poverty is such an issue, the teachers there stole a lot of the resources that were in the school. So
Did you say borrowed?
Borrowed, and never returned a lot of the material that was in the school. So what Joseph wants to do is build this school that will be specifically staffed by the Geneva Project. So they'll have trustworthy teachers. We did some work with the Peace Corps, talking to them a little bit. You want to talk about that?
So one of the other things that we really worked on when we were over there was, we also needed to register the Geneva Project as an NGO. So we had to go through the Department of Ministry, the Ministry of Education, and a few other ministries just to get paperwork done so that we could establish a network in order to become more legit within the country, and instead of it being outsiders coming in to help Sierra Leoneans, it was a Sierra Leonean NGO working to promote education in Sierra Leone. And we did network with the Peace Corps. We went to visit them and talk to them about possibly having them bring teachers in. And what expectations would be for the Geneva project in order to sponsor Peace Corps teachers. And what else really? I'm sorry, my head's a little foggy, but one of the things in Sierra Leone is that with the poverty rate so high, that education is not a priority. And a lot of boys would be the ones in the family that would continue their education because all schools cost money. It's not compulsory at all. So the girls would be the first to kind of drop out of school. And one thing that the Geneva project is really working for is getting scholarships for girls so they can continue their education. And that way they can raise themselves in society and have more of a say as well. So.
Our experience in Sierra Leone was amazing. I'm planning on going back. I'm not so sure, Alyssa. Eventually. Eventually, maybe. I'm hoping that once the school gets running, I'll be able to go back and provide some professional development to the teachers there. And hopefully with the Peace Corps going into the school, they'll be able to have some really great teachers who are also there. I wouldn't recommend going to Sierra Leone unless you are very adventurous. A lot of people, everyone has said how beautiful their country is.
I'm Tuful Al-Marzuki, and I have an immense fear of public speech, but you can never say no to Jane, so. I'm from Saudi Arabia. I'm in the Masters of Science in Special Education Severe Disabilities program. I decided to move to the States because I wanted to become a competent and trained teacher. I represent the second generation of Saudi nationals who studied abroad. My parents were from the first generation, and when they moved back to Saudi in the 80s, they had many work opportunities in higher education because colleges and universities were being expanded. And so yeah, I mean, they lived through the 70s in California, so I guess they were lucky. The main focus shifted for my generation. It's mainly on school education, primary and secondary. They are beginning to recognize the importance of early childhood education and early intervention. I chose the state of Massachusetts because it is renowned for its higher education institutions. It is known to have one of the best schools in this country and for its educational achievements. Simmons College is one of the private colleges accredited by the Ministry of Higher Education in Saudi Arabia. After I moved to Boston, I learned, and this is local information, that is, it's one of the best schools in the education field, or it's highly recognized.
And yet you persevered, and some of you are even thinking about going back. And for that, you know, I personally am very grateful. I'm also amazed at the opportunity that's represented in these efforts, that this is a time in which in this country we talk a lot about how difficult it is to get a job for people who are coming out of school. And you know, there's a conversation of scarcity everywhere we turn. But I think that one of the things that you've done today is that you've reminded us of the tremendous opportunities that are out there.